Yes.
Any opposition, same sign. And that motion passes 8-0. At this time, we'd move to recognition of the audience, but we do not have anyone signed up to speak. So we will move into our reports. President Laura Christensen with the FEA is not here with us this evening. She is actually, today is International Workers Memorial Day. And so she is at an event being hosted by Northern Plains Labor Council, which honors and commemorates North Dakota and Minnesota workers who died on the job. So she is at that this evening, and she shared with me that they will be also honoring Representative Liz Conmey at that event tonight. So next, we will move on to our report from Dr. Steiner.
Thank you. So we'll start with some celebrations. One of the things the state did when Superintendent Baszler was still here is they knew that, we have all these great educators across the state, and just having a teacher of the year or principal of the year wasn't enough. So she created something where you could nominate educators who just make a difference. And so it comes around statewide, they have a group review it, and then they have ones that they recognize. And they have a day where they get to go out to the Capitol and they get to be recognized. So we had three, Mercedes Doblato Hansen that teaches at Davies, Ashley Guy, counselor, Jefferson Elementary, and then Anita Monkey from Davies High School. So they'll be recognized at that event. And then we have National Board Certification. So we have Corey Clark, Melissa DeMol, and Tanya Hetland from Fargo that are also going to be recognized at there. So it's nice that they found a way again to recognize educators in a little different way beyond just the teacher of the year. Fargo Public Schools, if you didn't see, the press release has been honored with the Best Communities for Music Education Award. 17th year in a row and 23rd year overall. So again, just shows one, the amazing music programming we have, but also the amazing community support for music programming. I said a couple of times, this is the year of Beth Olson, and it's fitting that Todd is here. So congratulations to Beth. She was named the YWCA Cass Clay Woman of the Year for advocating for equality. And had a ceremony a few weeks back. And then recently we had 20 Fargo public students who were recognized as new inductees into the National Technical Honor Society. So you understand what that is. That's different. National Honor Society. Those that have a 3.5 GPA in career and technical education courses, 3.0 overall, completing 2 credits in a pathway and being active members in a student organization. So there are 20 that from the Fargo schools got recognized for being in that group. Mentioned in my weekly update that I had the opportunity to attend the Bar National Conference. It was a fantastic conference. I think what was probably even more impressive was there were close to 200 North Dakota representatives of about the 800 that were there. Our state is really looked at as one of the models for how you can start to build this out, and I think our state's going to invest even more in this model. Anne Marie shared with me Fargo was the first district to adopt BAR. Right now we see Bennett, Carl Ben, Ed Clapp, Virtual Academy, Jefferson, Madison, and South, with some new ones that will be joining next year. I think the thing I was most proud of is we actually had 2 groups present. So we had a group that was Fargo South and Carl Ben, and it was talking about the importance of the transition in BAR, that we make sure we don't lose kids on that way. And we had Molly London, Shannon Mortrue, Jessa Magnuson, Joanne Krecha, and Mariah McKinney that presented. It was a full house. It was a wonderful presentation. I sat by a couple people who were feverishly writing notes and going up afterwards and just saying, this is great, we never thought of this. They really did a wonderful job of kind of a hands-on approach with also some theory and how it linked to BAR, but also how you can continue to meet the needs of your individual building through a program. So they did wonderful. We also had Jefferson Elementary that presented. So Ashley Guy, counselor, and Paula Nelson, media specialist, librarian, presented. And they talked about strengthening family engagement and share, again, a packed room and share just a wealth of information on how we can think about engaging families. And that just engaging families isn't getting them to come to an event, but getting them to come to an event and leave with something that is going to help benefit them when they're at home, when they're in the community. and they just did a wonderful job. And then Aaron Kaluza, who's an instructional coach at EdClap, had a poster presentation about the decrease in behavioral referrals and how that's working in their building. So really well represented for Fargo Public Schools, and should be very, very proud of the people and the work they've done and the work that the district has done to invest. And I'm glad that we're going to start expanding even more. So that's the celebrations. A couple just updates from me. If you remember, we have a sponsoring entity policy, which was House Bill 1478 in about 2021, which allowed us to articulate credit for events or our experiences that occur outside. We recently approved pay. So philanthropy and youth will now be credit bearing. Every year they're involved in it. If they complete it to satisfaction, which their advisor works on with the pay people, they can earn 0.25 credits, so a full credit. Typically, I tell people this is not about graduation credits. It is about your transcript telling a compelling story, and it becomes letters of recommendation. It becomes scholarship advancement. But it also becomes the idea that giving back to your community can look very different. The pay presentations are just phenomenal events if any of you ever get a chance to see those. Our Portrait of a Leader voting is done. So the three that were shared across our educators and our students were communication, respect, and empathy. So again, communication, respect, and empathy. The other ones in that now we need to work through is from the students were integrity and collaboration. And then from the staff was trustworthy and understanding. So I think there's certainly some crossover there. We'll now work with our leaders and start to define those competencies. So that was really well done. Dr. Gross and I, Dr. Hansen, have been meeting with a grading group. We've now went to every week meetings as we are trying to kind of work through EBR and what it needs to look at the high school, middle school, and elementary. And thank you to Bill. Bill has done some wonderful work on Infinite Campus. One of the reasons that some of this changes, we need to have a system that was being able to be clearly communicated with students. What do they know? What don't they know? Clearly communicate with parents. How do you help as a parent? How do you assist your kid if you don't know where they're at? And so we're really talking right now of skills, yellows, the buckets, how does it fit? Bill ran a bunch of scenarios for us, and we found out that, what we thought to be true was not quite accurate or true. So we've got some decisions we've got to make fairly soon, but just more conversations about how what we grade and what we report can help families and help students. Our director of facilities, we have 3 interviews that are held this Thursday. So we're hopeful by the end of this week, early next week, we should have an offer extended and have someone that will have a transition plan in place. In between that right now, Merit has been fantastic, and I will just say that whole department is doing a wonderful job of communicating what they need when they need it, but they are just doing the work and doing really well with it. So I feel really comfortable where we're at right now. Level D, so if you think of the Explorer Academy, right now we go through 8th grade. The gap in our area for all of our schools is high school. And Shelby will say where you see a gap is students with intellectual disabilities and high behaviors, complex behaviors. And we want to keep those kids in a school setting. We just don't have the space nor the staff. I shared this with an organization in town when we were having kind of a check-in meeting. They reached back out and said, we might be able to partner and have a solution for this in the long term. So West Fargo, Moorhead, and ourselves are meeting with that organization to have a conversation about could we sooner than later have a high school program that we would share, being able to offer, and then meet the needs of our kids. Again, I don't know that it will be something we'll be able to pull off right away, but I think there's some promise to meet a really big need in our area that's just we can't meet as individual districts. And then the last thing is next Thursday, we have our second strategic plan meeting. And ultimately what we will do is narrow our priorities down to kind of our top 10. And buildings will begin to identify their critical objectives and then desirable outcomes. So we've got about 60 people that will be in this room. Dr. Slavik will do that virtually, but we should then have a pretty good feel to begin to share with you in late May or early June what those priorities are and to gather some feedback. So those are my updates.
Great, thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
Two quick questions. So building assets, reducing risks. Which school did the family engagement presentation?
Jefferson did.
Jefferson. Okay, and then the philanthropy and youth, that earns a 0.25 credit?
For every year, so they could get up to
every
a
year.
full credit. We're limited a little bit sometimes by MISL3, the coding, so we were able to give one full credit for it over 4 years.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for all those updates. It's time for now, I'll be looking for a motion to approve our consent agenda. Robin?
I will move for approval of the consent agenda with the HC addendum.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Robin and a second from Jason. Any conversation? Questions? Okay, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposition, same sign. That motion passes 8-0. Next, we move to business. Our first memo is number 102, engagement experience in co-curricular activities. And Dr. Steiner, do you want to introduce that to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So you do have this in your packet. And Mr. Olson, our Director of Activities for the district, is here, and he is able to share. He'll walk you through the report. We'll take any questions. If there's things we're not sure how to answer, Todd and I talked through a couple of them today. We'll dig and figure that out, but we have some really good data to share with you tonight.
Good evening. As you see there in the report, we have our participation data. Interesting part about giving this presentation at this time is we don't know exactly what's in there and what's not yet until we get through the spring season. So our numbers on the surface, to me, look very good. Some are outstanding. Some I think we have some gaps on that will straighten themselves out. I went back and did a little history I'll share with you here in a few minutes. The other thing we talk about is GPA of participants versus non-participants. We're tracking well on that, but again, those numbers are semester one numbers. And then we have our team scholars that we also track. And again, we're progressing nicely on that, but winter and spring sports use the second semester grade points of their team members to determine those. And then on the next page, we have our survey data. This data has been, I think this is year 13 that we've given these surveys, and it has been so consistent year over year, it's incredible. And then finally on the bottom there is data that Kathy Anderson from Trollwood shared on her exit surveys that she gives at the end of, those would be from this past summer session. So I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Greg?
Yeah, looking at the participation numbers, what is Discovery's secret? What are they doing right?
Well, Discovery's always had outstanding participation, but they have started a learning lab club in the mornings. You know, I think one of the things at our middle schools is always, where do we put kids in the morning? Some are in the gym, some are in the commons. Well, now a lot of them are here. They've had 352 participations in that lab setting so far this year. I looked back last year, they had 212, and that appears to me to be the first year it's been in existence. So in the last 2 years, they've had 75 and now currently 83% participation. We've never had numbers from a school like that in the 13 years that I've been giving this survey.
Is the GPA data, do we have that for middle school, or is that only for high schoolers?
It's for all of our participants for the GPA itself. And then the team scholar part, which is a team with a 3.25 or better, that's just our high school varsity teams.
I think what I'm getting at is, like, with that giant spike in participation at Davies, do we also see, or at Discovery, thank you, is that also, like, correlate with an increase in GPA, since we do see a really strong connection between those two?
I haven't seen that specifically by school. What my assistant does is we have a way of marking participants in Power School, And then she just gets the report of overall participants and non-participants. That's all we've looked at this point. I think what the 83% at Discovery really tells us is we're getting some kids to come and do activities that haven't historically done activities. I went back the last 3 years and found an average for each school. Our average at Discovery over the last 3 years has been 70%, which is outstanding, but it's not 83%.
Maybe a question for our superintendent of secondary schools is, do we, with the success of Discovery's, program that we're attributing this to, are we extending that to other schools?
So I think right now at each of our buildings, they look at the needs of their students, they look at the needs of their building. And I think one of the things at Discovery is they, like was mentioned, wanted to an opportunity in the morning for students who got there early. And this was one of those things that filled the needs. I think as we have our secondary principals meeting and we discuss the data, we talk about where are those successes and how can other buildings learn from that. So that will be the conversations that we will have moving forward. And I could see that others may, who have a similar need for students who come early and they want them active, they may implement those as well. But I think data like this helps us have those conversations.
I think kind of related. Another thing that really jumped out at me was not just that Carl Ben had the lowest participation rates, but those students go to South High, and South High, it's a 21% increase between Carl Ben and South High. So, I'm thinking of a lot of different potential explanations for this, but I'm like, is South High doing something right that they're getting a bunch of kids who didn't want to participate, or is it that the kids wanted to participate but they didn't find something they're interested, or I just see that 21% jump just between Carl Ben and South High, and wondering what might be going on there.
I think that might be a timing issue. If I go back with a 3-year history, South High is at 69% and Carl Ben is at 62%. So I think typically the high school would be more because there are more opportunities, more activities. When you have an outlier like Discovery, that's a pretty tall order for Davies to catch up to 83% participation. But our other comparables are pretty similar, with the high school being 7 to 10% greater participation. And I think if you look at our list of activities, the high school list is an awful lot longer.
And I know, one of the things Todd and I talked about was there's some transportation things here too. If you're able to be driven to school or walk to school, you can participate in some of those early things where some of our kids can't. And so that's when Dr. Gross was saying, when we have our principal meetings, the conversation around that will be like, what could that look like for kids coming off the bus, and what could we do different? So I think it's a good conversation to have.
Namal?
Hi. So bear with me here. I have a couple of questions. And I think this conversation is really good to be able to see a data like this, especially for the students' experience and the safety. I think that is good to know, And I'm very surprised for the fact that it's over 2,000 respond. That is really good, and I thought this is amazing. But at the same time, I'm not seeing the breakdowns, because, as a schools or as a Fargo public school, we are responsible as an adults, or just to be sure that everybody's, voice are heard, on the tables. And I just want to know on this data, because it's definitely hidden, of who's the background of the students are and so forth, because there's no breakdown in here. Because I feel like if we can see the breakdown, it would be really good. Like for me, I can ask you a question right now. Can you show the survey result that have a breakdown of the student of race, ethnicities, the gender, the disability student, English learner students in our schools, because I'm not seeing it. And then at the same time, I can also ask you on the safety and belonging. You see what I mean? Because the safety of these students, I want to know, what are they saying and how are they feeling into our school system before? Because these results, like I said, they're very amazing, are incredible. And I want to see that. Are they feeling safe? Are they feeling heard? And things like that. So do you have some sort of data like that, or are they just all hidden?
We have by grade, school, and I believe gender.
So
That's
just
it.
only grade, school,
Yep.
and gender? So basically, we don't have any other race where we can say, okay, we have this data of the student from different background, and they are struggling here and there. How are we be able to help them?
Well, and this is just for participation in activities. I think we have some surveys out there that are wider scope than this. We're pretty much asking, does your instructor, coach, director know what they're talking about? Do you feel good when you're in activities? We don't have it broken down
We have
more than those 3-4 ways.
Yeah, we have our safety and belonging survey where we do break it down by demographics. It doesn't mean we can't add that as an option in the future. That wouldn't be difficult for us to do. That's just a click thing. But I think in this data, when the board approved it, it didn't ask for a breakdown by demographic. If that's something we want to consider in the future, that's not hard to adjust the survey.
I think I get it. I knew exactly where we're going with this, but I just wanted to see if there are any future, these students that are in these co-activity or extra curriculum, do they feel safe to be in those activities? Do they have all of that kind of stuff? That's why I'm asking you this question. It's not because, they're not there. Because some student, will want to be like, okay, I want to go to this activity. Do I feel safe in it? So the more you know, at least you have an idea. If this student participate here, you know that they feel comfortable or they're not. So that's the reason why I'm asking you this question. It's not because of the safety or anything like that on the other level. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, do we have, Nikki, go ahead.
I'd like to go ahead and put forth a motion that we accept the reasonable progress has been made on RSI-3 for the 25-26 school year. Second.
We have a motion from Nikki and a second from Robin. Is there any other discussion or question on this memo? Greg?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that I think Yamal actually makes a really good point, because in our strategic plan for this strategic initiative, Measure 1 specifically, that's the one about participation, specifically says that we're looking for information that demonstrates participation will increase with increased access and participation across student groups,
Okay.
which I tend to agree that that's, other than grade, we don't really get that data.
Robin?
And I would say participation is different than a survey. So I'm thinking that also participation broken down into demographic groups might be interesting to hear.
So is that noted? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Other questions or comments on this? No? Are we ready to vote? Are you ready for us, Tara? All right, go for it.
Felixson,
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kirsten Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Birkland,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
President Minear.
Yes, that motion passes 8-0. Okay, that takes us to item B, Memo 103, which is the 2027-2028 school calendar approval. Dr. Gross, are you ready for us?
I am.
Or you, yeah, go for it.
I'm just going to present to this on the screen. So in front of you is Memo 103. And before I get into it, I just wanted to very much thank publicly the committee members who were part of the calendar committee. They spent a great deal of time working on the calendar. In fact, there were 16 members, school board member, we had students, we had parents, staff members and principals, a few district office staff as well. And over the course of multiple meetings, they looked at multiple things from the EL that we have around calendar to what the state statute indicated. We looked at co-curricular activities. We looked at calendars of religious holidays from multiple areas. And really, that was the foundation of our conversations. The group really just looked at it and started with a blank calendar. And we said, we know what the rules of the road are. How are we going to build that together? And the conversations that we had were fantastic. Attached to the memo, you will see a different calendar that was presented to you on April 14th. It is a new one that we created on April 23rd. That committee, who worked very, very hard, was even willing to come back and look at it one more time, and I was very grateful for that. Really, the only changes between what we presented to you or was in the packet before and this centers around the end of the school year. And if you look at the month of May, on the previous draft, it had May 25th as a student or a storm day. We went back knowing that the EL says that all of our storm days need to happen before the last student contact day, and had wonderful conversations. The group also had the opportunity to look at anything in the calendar and make changes to anything, but they just wanted to focus in on that component because they felt very comfortable and confident with the rest of the calendar. So as we look at that May 25th date, you can see where it ended up, but conversation centered around really 3 different locations in the calendar, just to let you know. One of them was April 13th and the opportunity to potentially extend that weekend. Another was May 1st, the opportunity to have a day off near the beginning of the month, and then April 19th. April 13th was looked at because, again, extending the holiday. May 1st was looked at for that beginning of the month, but what we found out there is, as we looked at the advanced placement testing window, a lot of that falls right in the first 2 months or weeks in May. The group said, we don't want to disadvantage any student based on that. And then they looked at that one in May on the 19th. And although it's not something that we take off because of different things, that is a day that I believe it's the EDC track tournament happens. There are a tremendous amount of student athletes who are part of that. There are a tremendous amount of individuals who are coaching at that. And we have a lot of our families who are part of that as well and want to see that. So the idea is that would be the day that we would exchange for that May 25th date. The other thing the committee did is they had some conversations around if we could give Dr. Steiner some advice on which days we would want first and second. They did that as well. And you can see that the first storm day they would like to utilize, if we need to, would be May 19th. The second would be April 17th. Other than that, the color code on this calendar would be the green are our professional development days, and they are, a lot are preloaded at the beginning of the school year, but there are some after the end of the first semester, which would be that January 14th day, and at the end of the school year. The blue are the student contact days. They are divided into 2 different shades of blue to indicate semester 1 and semester 2. And then the burnt orange colors are the days that we must have off according to either statute or our contract. So with that, I just wanted to present that to you, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Gross. Are there any questions? Or Robin, you can make a motion? Go for
Yeah,
it.
I'd like to make a motion that the 2027-28 school calendar be approved as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Robin and a second from Nikki. Any discussion? Robin?
I just want to express my appreciation about the preference in the times you use storm days. Or thank the committee
Yes.
for considering that.
Other questions or comments on this? Nikki?
Maybe just a couple for the sake of discussion. I too appreciate the designated use, I guess we'll say, of those snow days. I'm curious, I know there's been discussion around it, but I know we'll get asked what happened to the week in March. So if you could just share the discussion around it, thank you.
Absolutely. So every calendar committee starts with a blank sheet of paper. We looked at the results from the student, the staff, and the parent surveys. And what we saw over time, that has shifted. In the past, surveys showed that every one of those groups wanted a week-long spring break. This last showing, that was not the case. And there was a group that said, maybe not. Now, was it overwhelming? No. It was like, I think it was 51-49, but still we were coming back to more of a central view on that. So what the group did is looked at, okay, we also asked in the survey, when do you want to start? When do you want to end the school year? That was critically important. And then as we built the calendar, we found to meet the needs of when we wanted to start and end, we just could not build in that week-long spring break, which then actually went along with that survey data that we had reviewed together.
It was interesting to me as I joined, and Dr. Gross did a phenomenal job facilitating. There were some other conversations around that. One was there's some difficulty for students, especially our littlest ones, to acclimate back in. It's almost like starting over to an extent. There was a person that worked at NDSU, the comment was made, and this matches with NDSU, so it works really well. And I didn't think about this, and they said, well, the kids have that off. We do not. So some of our parents that work at the university have said that that is not necessarily the best. And then the other part that I think is important is we are trying to reset summer school so we can get that done in a month, which means we really need to start the first week of January. So that was those were other parts of the discussion that occurred during that.
Go ahead. Can I add on to that? Matching the college calendar also affects my other hat on childcare. The full week off really put out a lot of parents, and we don't have the capacity to take care of them. So aligning with the other community calendars is so very important. Thank you.
Nimal?
I've been having a tough time on this one. Well, I think I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Gross because it wasn't easy to deal with so many people in the team, and I think that you did an amazing job facilitating the calendar committees and the different voice, the different different opinion overall, including myself. I have to put myself in there. I think that there's no better person than you who can actually facilitate this. And I really applaud you for it. I just want to say thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this? Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
President Minear.
Yes, and that motion passes 8-0. All right, our next item is Memo 104, which is a pilot application. And this is exciting for us because we have our policy in place now, so we get to see how it works. Okay, so before we delve into this, I just want to share a few things. We do have some presenters here. So we have Jim Gilmore from the city, and I'm guessing you're Chris Brungart with Fargo Housing and Redevelopment. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we are going to hear their presentation, and then you can ask them questions about the presentation, about what's going on. And then from there, after that, at some point in time, we'll take a motion. If you see in your board memo, there's actually a couple different options for us. So please make sure if you do make a motion that you understand what options are in front of us and you know what you're saying. And I also want to acknowledge, we haven't been through this process yet with our policy. There is a decent chance that whatever motion comes forward might fail. Then we have another option. So we'll work through it. Hopefully it'll be nice and smooth, but I just want to put that out there to try to set the stage as we move into this. So welcome. Let's hear your presentation.
Well, thank you for letting me be here. Like I said before, I'm Chris Brungar. I'm CEO with Fargo Housing Redevelopment Organization. We do several different things there. We administer the HUD programs, the public housing, the voucher program, and the other side of our business is we're starting to grow our portfolio of affordable housing. So there's also a push going through HUD for us to convert public housing into affordable housing. So this project here, 14-4 redevelopment, comes under that scope. We just got done demolishing 14 duplexes on that site, a 3-acre site on the corner of 18th Street and 25th Avenue. And we plan to come back in this location with a 65-unit affordable housing complex. And you see we have 32 one-bedrooms, 22 and 13 three-bedrooms. Our financing so far on this consists of 9% low-income housing tax credits granted through the state of North Dakota and about a $1 million housing incentive fund by the state legislature. So that allows us to get closer to be able to build this project, make it successful. I think some of the big things that we want to address on this from some of the previous projects came through here is this project's going to be 100% vouchered. So everyone's going to be living in that building will have a voucher, and that caps out at 50% of the average median income, and it goes 50% and below. So by that statement, if you have no income, you're paying nothing for rent. And then it's graduated at 30% of your adjusted gross income as we go forward from that point. I think I covered that. Some of the big things in this is part of the syndicating out the tax credits, we have to bring in another partner. And they're a limited liability partner that comes into this partnership with us. And they buy the 9% tax credits and they use in whatever, financial scheme they have. And they actually have 99% the ownership of the building until year 15. And that year 15, it reverts ownership back to Fargo Housing, and we're the sole owner of the building. And then by statute, it's tax exempt. So we have a 15-year window here that we're looking for a tax for a pilot. I think I covered all the big high spots on here. There's the facade of it, the rendering. We're looking at opening ground and starting construction here in August, if everything goes well. We have a very tight time frame of a little less than a year to complete this project and have it available for people to move in. And I talked to the city here today when I was at their meeting talking about access locations. I'm an old traffic engineer, so I couldn't get away from that. But it's pretty exciting to be at this point. So I'm available for any questions you may have.
Robin?
This is literally across the street from my main building at Boys and Girls Club. And right now, that all of those houses have been leveled. It's an empty field right now. And the previous tenants in these houses were a lot of children. So I would guess that we're going to also need to look at some boundary discussions.
Very possibly. I think, like I said, 65 units in that unit mix. To have anything greater than one bedroom, you have to have children to be moving into this. So.
So this property right now is owned by whom?
By Fargo Housing.
Got it. Thank you.
Melissa?
Yeah, I was just wondering what bus access is like at this location.
Oh, I already met with Fargo Transit, and they have an existing route that comes right down 25th Avenue, so there's a bus stop right there for them.
Other questions? Missy?
I just wanted to address Robin's question, and right now, what we're predicting is this is going to be Ed Clapp Lincoln area. That's where it's split. Our enrollment for next year, that is where we have some room, is Ed Clapp and Lincoln, because we shifted students. And so Eagles is taking on a few more students, but that actually is the area we've been wondering about because we've seen a decrease in enrollment. at both EdClap and Lincoln. And so more families would be wonderful.
All right, any other questions or comments? Does anyone want to make a motion? Or, okay, do you have a question or a comment? Sure.
I'm more interested in the financial piece of this, and I guess I look to Greg in planning a little bit for some guidance on that piece for us as a district.
Do we want to do that after we make a motion, or would we involve our guests in the?
I mean, I don't, at this point, I don't think that's a huge thing because you can ask your question and then, because you might be able to add to it too. What is your question?
I'm just looking at the financial implications. If we say yes and this is all fine, or
So my opinion on that is, with our new policy, I don't care. Like, honestly, I think our policy provides enough guidance that knowing the nitty-gritty details of the finances no longer matters if we're following our policy. This was one of the things that Planning Committee was pretty intentional about when we were developing our policy. We had a pretty clear consensus that we didn't want to have to really dig into the details about each individual project's financing, as long as the application for the tax incentive follows our policy, we get to enjoy the privilege of not having to really do a deep dive, as much as one board member, possibly myself, may want to do that. Our policy does provide guidance without having to do that. So if you're asking my opinion, I think this is better than the last one we saw.
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually called Greg for guidance on this, and our policy pretty explicitly states low-income housing would not be subject to the tapering off of tax breaks like other projects would be. So the policy states low-income housing, we basically would support without any of the additional nuances for other projects.
Yeah, I was actually really excited when I saw we had a pilot on our agenda. I was not excited. But then I opened it up and I was like, all right, this one is, in my opinion, reading our policy, a very awesome first case for us to use, because our policy is extremely clear on this and does not really provide a whole lot of wiggle room, because the one thing that we said we will even maybe think about is, if it is low income specifically, we're on board. That is the one priority that our board said unequivocally. It doesn't matter if it legally qualifies as low income housing, we're in. So I was pretty excited to see that. So
Do you want to
in
make a
that
motion?
in that spirit, I would like to make.
I feel
the
like you're headed
motion.
in that direction.
I'd move that the board president notify the city of Fargo that Fargo Public Schools intends to participate in the Fargo Housing and Redevelopment Authority pilot incentive.
I'll second.
So we have a motion from Greg and a second from Jason. Is there any more discussion? Jason?
I just want to bring up all the work that we've done over the last few months on this policy really helps this decision be easy. This project is much different and hits a lot of the things we've talked about compared to the last project that was brought forward. So again, thanks for everyone that worked on that to get it done.
Thank you. All right, any other discussion, questions? Okay, Tara, I think we're ready for a vote.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
President Minear.
Yes. Motion passes 8-0. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Okay, we are now moving along to our board reports. Robin, is it okay if I start with you?
Sure, very short. Governmental Affairs Committee met yesterday. We're getting ready for the info session on May 12th. A reminder email, a last minute push to remind legislators will be sent May 5th, and the deadline to reply is May 8th. The agenda at this point is pretty good. Let's see. We're going to talk about Explorer Academy, BAR, Vital Network, cell phones, and the mill levy update. I will say that the guests are appreciated. We're going to have a principal that talks about Vital Network, and I'm pretty excited about having 2 students from the superintendent's cabinet talking about their cell phones. So I think the variety of speakers will be resonate with our legislators.
And Mr. Christensen is confirmed from Fargo North. He'll come on the Vital Network, so we are confirmed with all the groups.
Great, good to know.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Greg?
Yeah, on April 15th, I attended the FPS Foundation meeting. I'm happy to report the foundation continues to be in a strong financial position and with a great future for all of the good work that it does. On the 16th, I attended our superintendent contract negotiations ad hoc committee meeting. We also met an hour and a half ago. And I'll let Katie share the good news there. And then on the 17th of April, I attended CEA.
Thanks. Melissa?
Yes, I have sent out a doodle poll to the negotiations committee about when we can schedule our May meeting. So please make sure that you respond to the survey and we can get that on the calendar for May. And then the only other things I have is I went to the Northside Desserts concert last week, and that was a combined orchestra and band concert that raises scholarship money for International Music Camp, and it was really wonderful. And then I also had the great excitement to attend Mary Poppins at Davies High School, which was fantastic. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Kristen?
I attended CEA and GAC, and then I was at Discovery last week to attend the Future Eagle Expo, welcoming in the very excited 6th graders.
Nice. Thank you. Jason?
Yeah, I was not here at the last board meeting, so prior to that, I was at the National School Board Conference with a couple of my board members and Superintendent Corey. We had a great time there. Then I've attended regular committee meetings and the superintendent contract negotiation meetings. I did also miss the C3 Tech board meeting last time because I was out for work. So that's all I have.
Thanks. Nimal?
Thank you. I attended the CEA, the calendar committee, as we discussed earlier. It was amazing. Then I also dropped by Ben Franklin's and get to pop into one of the meetings. It was very interesting. And what can I say on that piece? It was a lot to learn about the student and the thing that they are doing. And then also and I also wanted to thank them for everything that they've done on that day, especially that incident that happened. And it was what I heard from them is the effort that they put in to make sure that each of our students are safe, and how important their work are, and they also want to let you know that it's not easy. It's difficult, but at the same time, this is their job, and they're really happy about it. One thing that they really wanted to put out sometime is, or just want to put out there is, is the fact that, especially when the incident like this happened, parents tend to just swam into the school at the school site. That's kind of put a lot of pressure too on them, and I kind of emphasize with them too as well, because you never know if the child go outside and then there's that individual still out there, if it's not if that individual was not evacuated right away, it can cause another stress, toward our staff and the parent too as well. So it's basically a safety concern. Um, yeah, there was a very interesting word that I learned that I will not repeat here. Um, but it's so crucial, how they remind the students and so forth, like how they try to take advantage of some teachers sometimes. But overall, I think the conversation with Ms. Henson and her staff was really very crucial for me, and I learned a lot from them. And yeah, maybe later on I will continue having that conversation with Dr. Steiner. Thank you.
Thank you, Namal. Nikki?
Thank you. As you've heard, CEA met Friday, April 17th. The Health Insurance Committee also met April 21st, and I attended GAC yesterday. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so for my report, I will share, as two other members mentioned, we did have 2 ad hoc committee meetings to finalize the changes to Dr. Steiner's contract. We did complete that just this afternoon, so that will come to you. It'll be on the agenda at our next meeting. Also, since we met last, I was able to have my monthly presidential summit with President Laura Haugen Christensen. And I have a prop for my next announcement. So Melissa already mentioned it, but she didn't have a prop. So I would like to thank Rebecca Sari, Carly Grander, Sandy Thiel, and all the incredibly talented performers on their successful run of Mary Poppins. It was practically perfect in every way, and it gave me an excuse to dig out my Mary Poppins hat from an old Halloween costume. I would say a few other people in the audience got it and others didn't. So it was an interesting evening of people looking at me. But it was just such a delight and such a phenomenal play. And they just pulled it off and it was a great evening. Okay, so I'll put that back down now. Also, I got to serve as a judge at the 4 Sparta Solo Music Festival at Ben Franklin last week, Thursday and Friday. That's always such a joy, and a huge shout out to Mr. Calrow for making that such a fun, just fun 2 days for everyone involved. I'm also fortunate enough to get called back repeatedly to volunteer at the Washington Book Fair, which is just always heartwarming since that's where I started a lot of my volunteering with the school district when my kiddos were there. I visited Madison, which included observing a very, very engaging conversation about all the teamwork and collaboration needed to get people to the moon and back. So that was a very interesting conversation to see students contributing to that. And I got to hear librarian Louis Lauer read I Want My Hat Back. He had a very interesting interpretation at the end. I'm not sure the students agreed with him, but again, it was a lively, fun conversation. I also want to mention, just a friendly reminder, next week or next meeting, May 12th, we do have a work session after that meeting, so keep that in mind. And I did send out an email today just with some reminders. This is a busy season for things going on in the community. If you feel like we need to publicly notice something, Anne Marie definitely wants you to reach out, so just don't hesitate. It's super easy for her to publicly notice things, and we'd rather be cautious with getting things noticed. So our next meeting is May 12th. It is 6:24 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.